Okay, we are getting ready for the 2023 NFL Draft on the Our Lads Football Network. And even though it's only November, we figured this is the perfect time to kind of grease the wheels and get everybody excited about the 2023 draft. And so we're going to start off by welcoming in our newest analyst. He is with Our Lads, and I'm gonna kind of let him kind of do his thing, since this is an opportunity for him to welcome himself to our channel. And of course, anybody out there that is, maybe you are familiar, maybe you're not, with Dave's work at ourlads.com. But Dave, good to have you on our channel.
Thanks for having me, Greg. It's an honor to be here, especially on behalf of the Shankas and Our Lads Scouting Services. Been around a long time, and really looking forward to this upcoming draft. It's the draft process is 24/7, 365 process, and now it starts to get a little more enjoyable now that we have some tape to watch and some things to project.
Dave, first thing I got to ask you, because somebody's going to look and they're going to look at your name and they're going to go, well, how do you pronounce that? So, how do you pronounce your last name?
I've heard it all. It's Syvertsen. All right.
Did you say Cyber or Ver?
Syvertsen.
Vert.
With the V.
Syvertsen. That's easy.
Yeah.
Syvertsen.
Yeah. Syvertsen. Yep. So just
go.
make sure we get that S after the T. That's the most common mistake. People put the S before the T. So it's Syvertsen.
Syvertsen. That's easy. That should be, because some of the names that we have to throw out.
God.
I don't think we'd have to worry about DJ. How do you pronounce his last name for the Clemson Tigers?
I just call him DJ.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah,
I was saying that earlier in the year. People were going, "Hey, man, I think he's actually looking pretty good." So, you haven't really watched the tape, have you? I mean, and sure enough, he's the last couple of games. Boy, I think people have learned a lesson on him already.
Yeah, I think we have a year to figure out that name, because I don't think we're gonna have to talk about it between now and then.
Yeah, he ain't going anywhere. Okay. I tell you what, before we talk about the 2023 draft, let's kind of wrap up the 2022 in a way by just kind of updating what's going on, since this is still the middle of the NFL season. A lot of rookies out there partaking and doing their job, and some have been surprisingly good, some have been surprisingly poor. So first of all, I tell you what, let's start with your offensive and defensive rookies of the year at this point in time. Who is the offensive rookie of the year?
I'm going to go with an NFL all-time first and stay away from the skill positions on the offensive rookie of the year.
I love it.
I do think the top rookie in the NFL this year is Ike Ekwonu, the left tackle from Carolina. Number 6 overall pick in the draft. Had the rough week 1 assignment of matching up against Myles Garrett. And to make that even worse, the team, the offense, gave him no help pretty much the entire game. And he got roasted, as pretty much any rookie would against them. But since that game, since week 1, he's been on a steady ascent that has not stopped. Every single time I watch him play, it's better than the previous week. And the level at which he's playing right now, I would put him in one of the top 10 left tackles in the game.
Wow.
And so I'm trying to, when you compare him to other rookie tackles, a couple of these guys have struggled, right? Evan Neal's currently hurt. He was struggling a little bit on the right side. Charles Cross has had his shares of ups and downs. Tyler Smith moved from guard to tackle, and that transition has been better than I thought it would. But again, the penalties are starting to pop up, and he's starting to get exposed. A lot of these times, as these kids get more tape on them, and the opponent starts to see where they can be beat, you see rookies this time of year start to break down a little bit. Ekwonu's on the ascent. Since that week, we've had he has not allowed 1 sack since week 3. He's allowed 1 pressure over the last 3 games, and that's not even the most important attribute to his game that I'm seeing on tape. It's the running game. Carolina, even post trade, that the best 2 rushing games Carolina has had has been after they traded Christian McCaffrey. They're in the top half of the league in rushing and yards per attempt. And Ekwonu is a weapon in the running game. Just because he doesn't have the ball in his hands and he's not crossing the goal line scoring touchdowns, he's a weapon at the second level. What they're doing with him, most tackles can't do. They just don't have the athletic ability. And that was the standout trait in Ekwonu's process, was he was just an elite, rare level athlete. But the concern was, would he be ready for the NFL right away? There were concerns with him playing tackle right away. And he's quieting those concerns right away. I think he's the best rookie on the offensive side of the ball. You could talk about Kenneth Walker and Dameon Pierce, but If you're going to ask me which rookie is helping their team the most right now, it's Ike Ekwonu.
Where was Breece Hall before the injury?
He would have been probably right behind him, only because he wasn't making a huge impact right away, but he was.
Took him a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it took him a few weeks, but I mean, the three running backs, Hall, Kenneth Walker, and David Pierce.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the guys that, because of the way the NFL award system works, because of the way the AP votes on things, it all comes down to stats, unfortunately. I think we got to give some of these big uglies a little bit more respect.
Well, who do you think will get then?
I do
right
think
now.
If Kenneth Walker stays on his current path, now that Rashad Penny's out of the picture with his broken leg, and Seattle is in the limelight right now as one of the surprise teams, he's a focal point of that offense, and he looks awesome. I mean, he was our top running back coming out last year, and he's what he's doing with his footwork, his vision, breaking tackles. He doesn't impact the passing game at all.
Nope.
That was one thing that we saw at Michigan State, but I'll tell you what, in that offense, it's okay. It's more than okay.
They have enough weapons in the passing game.
Yeah. And I still think they're going to be a run-first team. That's what Carroll's deal for the entire time. That's what caused the whole Russell Wilson, fractured relationship, and it works. And I think Kenneth Walker is going to be a focal point there.
Okay, defensive rookie of the year. Is this tough or is this easy?
This one's easy. This one is Sauce Gardner all the way. And I think that everything he was advertised as coming out of Cincinnati, someone that never allowed a touchdown throughout his entire career, right?
That's right.
I mean, the last time Sauce Gardner allowed a touchdown in man coverage, including his rookie season, right, was in high school.
Crazy.
Okay. The one touchdown that he allowed this year, I even think it could be debated. It was against Cleveland. He was in zone coverage.
Yeah, that was,
you could argue that wasn't on him.
Sure.
Okay. So we're looking at a cornerback that, in my opinion, other than quarterback, is the toughest position to play in the football, especially as a rookie. Garner is already head and shoulders above every rookie in this class, but I also think you could probably put him, like Ekwonu, into the discussion, as he's probably on that really fast track, the way that Patrick Surtain was last year, over being considered one of the top 10 corners in the game. I think you're going to talk about him in that light at the end of this season. And you can see why guys are afraid to throw him the ball. The movement traits, the size, the reach, the length, the ball skills, everything is there. You don't see any wasted motion in any of his transitions. He's anticipating at a high level. He's reacting at a high level. I think that the Jets, they're heading back towards Revis Island with this kid.
It's unbelievable watching him every week, being in my team. It is something to witness. And what about Stingley, by the way? Because Stingley went first.
He's been up and down, as is the case with a lot of corners that play that position. It's one thing I give these guys a lot of kind of leeway because, if you're going to really truly evaluate cornerback play, I was doing yesterday with this future class coming up, they just don't get a lot of looks, right? You really need a lot of data to look back on, a lot of tape, and because they're so volatile up and down. They're like relief pitchers in baseball. Like 1 week, they can have a great 3/4 of a game and then give up 2 deep balls in the fourth quarter and they're getting roasted and then the headlines the next day. Stingley's kind of followed that trajectory where he's putting together a lot of quality series back to back to back, but then he has that one mishap, those 2 mishaps, the missed tackles, he's not really getting it. He's not showing the feel in coverage for route anticipation that Gardner is. And he's not as physically gifted when you're coming to the size, the reach. And I think that the acceleration that Gardner shows down the field, Stingley's just not there yet. But at the same time, he's making plays. He had a huge interception a couple weeks ago against Jacksonville in the end zone. And those are the kind of plays that we saw his freshman season at LSU that, hey, you put him near the ball, he's going to make a play. I don't think Houston has anything to worry about, but if you're going to ask me to compare the two, Garner's head and shoulders above.
Yeah, everybody develops at a different pace.
Absolutely, especially at that position.
Nothing to worry about with Derek Stingley. Because Gardner even said it. Look, I'm not a complete cornerback until I start turning the ball over, which he hasn't done. Because I got to start making big interceptions and I got to start doing things of that nature. Of course, he made some big plays in the Miami game that kind of turned that game early. But that's kind of what he's got to do to become, that Revis Island kind of guy. He has to start making those picks.
Completely agree. Yep, he's on the path, but he's not there.
He'll get there. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Now, there are a lot of teams out there, players that haven't yet developed. I just mentioned everybody develops at a different rate.
Yep.
So there might be some fan bases that are panicking a little bit with their draft picks. Oh, this guy's not performing well, especially the early round guys, first round guys. Give me a few players that you feel those fan bases shouldn't worry about it's too soon. These guys will be okay.
So I think because of the history of the Giants organization, they see an edge rusher come into the mix and with a lot of hype around him, and they just want sacks right away. They want sack after sack. They want Strahan, O.C. Manure, record setters, right? Lawrence Taylor. Like the history with the pass rush in this organization, in this franchise, the bar is set as high as any in the NFL. And Kayvon Thibodeau, who he essentially missed a month, all right, with a knee injury that
big surprise. Injury. Yeah.
He suffered an injury on a weird block, knee sprain, missed the first 2 games of the regular season on a little bit of a pitch count early on, starting in week 3. And I think he's got 1 sack to this point. The Giants are 8 games in. And I think a lot of teams, especially after watching Azeez Ojulari set a franchise record by a rookie with 8 sacks last year, they were expecting that same kind of performance, if not better, from one of the most hyped prospects in the class, right? He was a polarizing prospect, but he was definitely one of the most hyped. And I think the Giants fans should be okay with his level of play right now because he is causing pressure. He's getting near the quarterback. He is disrupting things. You can't only evaluate sacks when you're looking at, is this pass rusher doing his job or not? Are you disrupting the game? That is what he's doing. I do think the Giant fans will probably echo on this, that he's not getting called for a lot of these holds. Just the way his pass rush repertoire right now is not very versatile. I think what they're having them do is just explode off the edge, get him comfortable doing that. Then they'll work on some of the inside rush moves. And he's been getting held left and right. And the rest, he just has not been getting the flags. But the pressures are there. He's got 17 pressures in 6 games.
Nothing
17.
wrong with that.
That's a quality number.
That's good.
They should be very happy about that. And eventually those will turn into sacks.
Sure. All Giant fans have to do is take a look at the Jets and Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
Same thing I was hearing and Jet fans were hearing the last 2 years. Well, we're not seeing the sacks. We're not seeing the statistics we're expecting. Well, yeah, but he's doing this. He's doing good. This year is a whole lot different. But again, everybody rates a little bit differently. And like you said, as long as some of those underlying stats are there and some of the metrics that you just talked about, he'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of this time, and it's tough. I know not everyone has all the time, but you really have to go back and watch these games from the all-22 angle to really get the proper feel, and that takes time. I get it. So
that's right.
You trust me when I say that what
that's
he's
your
doing
job
right now as a pass rusher. Yes, that's my job.
Yes.
What he's doing as an outside pass rusher right now is exactly what you would want a top 5 pick to be doing. Okay. And yes, he has a ways to go, and we all know that. Not everyone's going to pop off the bus like Sean Merriman did as a rookie. That might be a bitter subject for the Giants fans to bring up because the Chargers used the Giants' original draft pick that they traded to them for Sean Merriman. But, that's where I think you got to be a little bit patient with these pass rushers, especially one that I think there's a bit of a power deficiency in his game, and that takes time to develop, especially with his lower half. So, I don't think there's any reason to be panicked about that one. Another one is actually the first pick of the 2nd round, and I do think the Tampa Bay Bucs fans were expecting big things out of him. Logan Hall, the hybrid D tackle, D end that the Bucs traded up for. He was my top available player after the first round was concluded back in April. And I, like Bucs fans, probably had big expectations because think about it, they lost a lot of their front, their pass rush presence. Jason Pierre-Paul and Sue, all these guys gone. They brought in Logan Paul, and they probably wanted him to fill that void right away. Now that we see Shaquille Barrett out for the year with an injury, tough break for them. It's been a tough year for them for a lot of reasons.
Injuries.
I think one of the things I haven't seen them do with Logan Hall yet, which is is one of the reasons why I had a high grade on him, was the inside-outside versatility. I want to see him rush from the outside a little more. I think he's got a great power game, great lockout game, plays with great leverage. And I think things just got a little crowded for him inside. I don't think the power presence is there yet. His bull rush, you can see it's just not breaking through the anchor of these offensive blockers yet. But I do think that he can, if you give him a little bit more space, which what he'll get if he's on the outside, just a little bit more, because they're going to have to replace some of these Shaquille Barrett snaps, and it'll be by committee. It won't be by one guy. I think you're going to see Logan Hall get shifted outside in certain looks, and I think you'll see an uptick in production there.
Well, it's very tough for any player, let alone a rookie, when you're asking him. And I understand his versatility is part of the reason he was drafted so high.
Yeah.
But when you kind of when you're learning not one position but two, or maybe even sometimes three, that's a lot to ask for a rookie. And I don't know if it's the right way to go about doing it. I'm not Tampa Bay coaches know better than I, but maybe that's why you need to give him a little bit more time.
I agree with you. Yeah, and there's two more guys that, it might not fit the question, but they haven't seen the field yet because of injuries, and I think that one of these teams is in some contention right now. The New Orleans Saints, they're going to get Trevor Penning back. It sounds like he's out of his boot. He's doing conditioning work.
Okay.
I do think James Hurst has been playing left tackle. I think Penning's going to take that job back right away the second he's ready to play, and I do think the Saints have had issues moving guys off the ball, and that's why they brought Penning in. I still think especially with their quarterback situation, they want to be run first, run second, run third, and then we'll pass the ball if we need to. Similar to what the Falcons have been doing this year. And I think that you get Penning back in there, which will probably be, I'm going to project another 2-3 weeks before he's on the field. I think the Saints fans don't get discouraged by the fact that he hasn't seen the field yet. I think he's going to make a difference down the stretch if they're still in it. I mean, they're not a very good team, but that division, the 4-4 Falcons.
Oh, the NFC's wide open. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, they got a big game tomorrow night. Well, when this airs tonight against the Ravens, that's if they can stay in the hunt, I think Penning's going to be a big part of that resurgence that they might be able to get a hold of. Jameson Williams is probably going to be back after Thanksgiving. I hope he gets on the field. I know Detroit's already out of it, and there might be some people that say, hey, why not just redshirt him this year? Wait till next year. Let's not risk any further injury or rushing him back. But, I mean, Detroit, I hate saying it, but they got a top 10 offense right now in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Statistically speaking, and they're doing this without a true deep threat in their wide receiving core, and that's why they drafted Jameson Williams. And I would love to see how that offense works with a true, credible vertical threat like Jameson.
Yeah, good point. And you can rest to be sure that in 2023, Detroit's draft is going to look defense, and some more defense.
Yep. So. And then, they'll probably have a quarterback competition between Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. We'll see.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think Goff's done a lot better than Baker Mayfield actually this season. So
yeah, no, I agree that Goff has, when I consider the economics, I do think it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to move forward with Goff for the long term. I don't think they might not release him.
I agree. Sure. But the thing is do you risk a first-round draft pick on a quarterback?
Yep.
Or especially is there a defensive player that's just too good to pass up, and you need defense? And you could win a lot quicker by drafting that defensive player than you could by drafting that quarterback.
I mean, I'm making my top 96 right now that I'm going to post on the RLAD site hopefully tomorrow or Tuesday. And
okay.
My top 3 players are defensive players.
There you go.
If the Lions are going to be at the top of the draft again, it is hard to pass on a guy like that.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And even though I understand that your top 3 players are on defense, the top pick in the draft, unless the team has a quarterback, is going to be a quarterback. That's just the way it is. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that, and I think that's just the way that the NFL is. But that's something that is interesting, that the defensive side of the ball is really what you need to go. And because there are some quality quarterbacks that we're going to be talking about just a little bit that are going to be available potentially in the first round. Okay, let's move on then to your favorite. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the 2022 draft and talk about your favorite day 3 pick players that have been performing well so far this season in the NFL.
Yeah, so my defensive guy is Tariq Woolen, the cornerback from Seattle. He was a 5th-round draft pick, former wide receiver that transitioned to the defensive side late in his career at University of Texas, San Antonio. I don't think we can come up with 5 guys that have made an impact in the NFL from that program. I can remember I always like to look back on notes from previous prospects, especially if they start to shine in the NFL early on in this situation as a day 3 pick. And I have 3 different instances. I have probably about 85 notes written on Woolen, and I have written 3 different times he looks like a Seahawk.
Because of his size, yeah. His length, his size,
just the length, the speed, he was dripping in tools. Like if you're going to draft a player based on tools, and I really do think day 3 – You make a couple swings for the fences, right? Yes. And they swung for the fence and they connected, with a bomb. I mean, Woolen's been starting from week 1. he had a string of 4 games this year in a row where he had an interception. He's at the top of the league right now, tied with a couple of other guys. And we're talking about Sauce Gardner, like that's the next step in his progression. And no,
right.
they're not in the same tier. Gardner is head and shoulders above Woolen right now as a corner, but Woolen is proving to be a playmaker.
Let me ask you, would you, if you had to pick all rookie two corners, Gardner one side, is Woolen on the other?
Yes, he is. I make a all rookie team for our lads every week, and it goes live Wednesday night. Just, I would love to get it out sooner, but it takes time to go and watch as many of these games and watch as many of these kids play. And Woolen's been the cornerback rookie of the week, I think 3 times. Okay. I think Gardner's been at 4 times. Like it's pretty much been one of those two guys going back and forth. So yeah, to answer your question, Gardner number 1, Woolen number 2.
Okay.
I would say the offensive day 3 pick of the year so far is we touched on him briefly, is Dameon Pierce, the running back from Houston. Not a lot to be happy with that team right now, but I would think he's probably the focal point of that offense. And he's got 562 yards after contact. That's 3rd in the NFL. All right.
Incredible.
Now, hey, he might get more opportunities than other guys. So I always like to, when I talk about stats and comparing to others, I like to use a per carry approach. And he's got 3.8 yards after contact per run on average, right? That's ahead of Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley. And, again, you don't always want to use one metric to compare guys, but I just to put that in perspective, how impressive his ability after contact is. And it comes from a lot of different things. It comes from proper footwork, sheer power and strength in his lower half, contact balance. These are traits we look for in the scouting process. And, it's very widely known that it was criminal how little he was used at Florida. We don't know what that coaching staff was thinking. And, you have to say not all coaches are there because they deserve to be there. And this is one of those situations where you come up with that notion because Pierce was barely even, you could even say he's not even a starter on Florida last year, the way they used it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now you know why Dan Mullen's not coaching Florida anymore, by the way.
Yeah, he's on TV now, and I guess you know why.
That's why, I mean, there were so many people that were, looking at Pierce and wondering what in the world was going on there. How come he didn't get enough attention at Florida? Yeah. He's too good. He's going to be a great sleeper. He was an easy sleeper candidate this season. He's lived up to it even more.
Yeah, to the point where we couldn't even call him a sleeper anymore because everyone was talking about him. And it's just funny how many of us with the eyes saw it and they didn't. I don't know what was going on there.
Still lasted to day 3. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say one positive that Houston benefits there is that he's got a little bit more juice in his legs than a lot of these backs that come out. And there's a lot of backs that come out with a lot of chinks in the armor. And then now we look at Pierce, who's probably has less carries on his legs than most backs, and I think Houston's going to benefit from that for a long time.
You could say, well, is that part of the reason why it was easier for Breece Hall to have an injury in his rookie season? Because he was a monster workhorse in college.
For multiple years. Yeah.
Unbelievable amount of carries, production, and all that. So you know how it is. It's just the more time that you're out there getting hits, the more opportunities for potential injuries, and that's just the way it is.
That's the volatility of the position.
Yep. All right. Any other favorites before we move on?
I think I don't really have a ton of statistics for you, but I love this kid, Dominique Robinson from Chicago, a former wide receiver that transitioned to defensive end really late in his career.
Okay.
I had him as one of the top 100 players on my final board. I don't think anyone had him that high, and he's flashing as a pass rusher, and I'm really looking forward to him getting more looks now that Robert Quinn was traded to Philadelphia. And I do think that was part of the process, is they really want to get this kid more looks because, he shined right away against San Francisco. I think he had a sack fumble early on in the year, and he's been part of that rotation. And his movement traits are off the charts good. And I think that as he continues to refine some of his technique with his hands, I think you're going to hear that name more and more. But, the metrics that we normally use for evaluating talent, you not have a ton on him. But if you watch Chicago play, you're going to see him jump off the screen, number 91.
All right. Now let's talk about quarterbacks. Nothing but quarterbacks now. First, the 2022 quarterback class. How's it shaking out?
Exactly how we thought it would, to be honest with you. We went 20 picks without seeing a quarterback called for the first time in a long time. And, Kenny Pickett, the first one that went, I thought that he wouldn't see the field until after Thanksgiving. And the reason was the team signed Mitch Trubisky to a 2-year contract that was not small. I mean, it was nothing compared to what the top guys are making, but I thought that was a commitment to Trubisky. But he did play very poorly as expected. And I do think Pittsburgh threw up the white flag.
Especially as soon as he got hurt. As soon as he got hurt and Pickett came in and showed that, hey, wait a second, in the Jet game, maybe this isn't too big of a stage for him.
Right. And there was not much of a drop off. I mean, I think that's important. If you're gonna play a guy at level 5 of 10, and you have two guys that are 5 of 10, one's a rookie and one's been in the league for years, you go with the rookie. And I think that's part. And I also think Pittsburgh knew that this is going to be a little bit of a transition year for them. They'll never say that publicly. And any team coached by Mike Tomlin has my respect. They're always going to be competitive. But I project them to win under 7 games this year, and I think that's where they're going to end up. And you see the trade of Claypool now. You can see that they know the writing's on the wall, and why not put Pickett in there? How is he playing right now? The 8 interceptions bother me, and I think that's going to be the thing that you really want to see him clean up down the stretch. Is objective number 1 of a quarterback. You got to protect the football, and his ball placement, his timing, his anticipation. These are things that you don't expect him to excel at. I don't expect quarterbacks in year 2 to excel at. Even though you have your outliers like Herbert and Mahomes, right? You got to give these guys. I'm big on you have to give them 3 years. And I know that sounds like a lifetime to some in this society where we're always like, give it to me now, give it to me now. So I'm not saying Pickett needs to be better right now, but those are the things that I see that stand out the most that need improvement. It's the ball placement and the anticipation, because he's just a hair late on some of these throws, and that's what's causing the turnovers.
And what else can we say about the rest of the quarterback class?
I mean, there's not much. Bailey Zappi ended up being 2-0 as a starter, and I think the question can be rightfully asked, if Mac Jones was not a recent first-round pick, would there be a little bit more of a QB controversy or QB competition in New England? And I know Belichick doesn't marry himself to previous draft mistakes. Not that I'm calling Mac Jones a mistake. I do think he plays the best players, and I think that's in their building. They think Mac Jones is the guy.
I'm not trying to stick up for Mac Jones, but Mac Jones I don't think was, and nobody looked at Mac Jones as a guy that would win games for you. It's not his MO. His MO is like, I'm going to be a smart guy. I'm going to be a guy that you can count on in big games. I'm not going to turn the ball over, that kind of deal. But I need an offensive line. I need a running game, and I need some really good receivers. I need all the help in the world I can get, and he just doesn't have any of it. He's got some good running game. And the offensive line is pretty good, but he doesn't have any weapons at all. He just doesn't have anybody he could trust.
They've thrown a few darts at the board, but I don't think many of them stuck. Between Devontae Parker and Tyquan Thornton, who's still in his rookie year, the 2 tight ends they signed last year, and Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. I think they try, but I do agree that they need a little bit more talent at receiver, and I think that's got to be a major priority.
He had more talent in Alabama.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, so come on.
So I mean, when Bailey came in, it was fun to watch. He played within the system well. He didn't make mistakes, but you could see in that Chicago game when he came in for Mac Jones that there really isn't a gap between the two. If anything, you can't really make an argument against. You cannot make an argument against Mac Jones yet. And it's
a nice situation to have when you don't have your franchise quarterback yet. To have these 2 young quarterbacks on your list. That's good. You don't have to worry about that. If Jones doesn't work out, maybe Zappi will.
Yep. So and the other 2 quarterbacks that have just basically had a cup of water. They haven't really. I mean, Skylar Thompson came in for the injured Teddy Bridgewater, and Tua
actually did a little bit better than I thought he was going to do.
Me too. And I had a couple of guys talk him up prior to the draft that I talked to. I don't really listen or talk too much. I don't like to have my opinion sway too much in the scouting process. But I had a couple people tell me about Skylar, saying he's going to be a player. And then we see him. I mean, he did okay against the Jets. When he did. And I for a 7th rounder.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. He didn't throw the ball a lot at Kansas State either. He was more of a runner, like a dual quarterback.
Yep. Yeah, that system is not made for passing quarterbacks for sure. So, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback competition
no.
soon in Miami. But again, I do think backup quarterbacks are valuable in the NFL.
Absolutely.
I think if New England and Miami have their guys, that's just another check that they can put in a box.
And what about Willis?
Malik Willis had his first start last week. Had It wasn't pretty. I can't sugarcoat that. I don't know if he's going to be playing tonight. I think that Tennessee has been keeping it pretty tight to the chest what Ryan Tannehill's status is. He was seen in walking boots, so maybe we'll see him play against Mahomes. But you can clearly see he's just not there yet when it comes to processing, and his footwork's a disaster right now. And we knew that coming in. All that talk last year of him being a first-round pick or a top 10 pick, it just wasn't realistic because you could see clearly at the college level in a simple offense that the second his first read wasn't there, he just bailed, and that just it won't work in the NFL. And Desmond Ridder hasn't seen the field yet. We just said the Falcons are in first place with Marcus Mariota and their run-heavy offense. That they're not going to take him out. So yeah, it's been a relatively quiet quarterback rookie class compared to what we've had in the past.
Not a surprise.
I would say 5 to 6 years.